Just to back you up, Antitrust Division at the Department of Justice has 350 fewer employees today than it did in 1979. FTC is only two-thirds of the size it was in 1980. It's not the only reason some of this is happening, but it's one of them, and a major one. With that, Senator Lee has to go to the floor, so I'm going to allow him to go first with his questions. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kroger has made public commitments to spend billions of dollars to lower prices, to improve its stores, and to raise wages. And those, of course, are just words. It's actions that matter. Mr. McMullen, I'd like to start with you. Now, Kroger announced $1 billion stock buyback at the end of last year, at the end of 2021. Consumers were suffering from record inflation and skyrocketing grocery store prices. Things have gotten considerably worse since then compared to food costs in January of 2021, just the beginning of last year. The average U.S. household paid an additional $110 for food in the month of October of 2022. The average Utah household paid an additional $125 in October of 2022, so it's even worse in Utah. If Kroger wasn't passing on savings to consumers when it was competing with Albertsons, because competition very often is what brings down prices. It's one of the few things that can be counter-inflationary when you've got people competing against each other. It tends to bring down price and enhance quality. Then why would we think it would pass on savings after it eliminates that competition?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. The commitment that we've made as a company, and if you look at our track record, would support that. We've lowered our pricing by over 3% if you look at since 2003, and on an annual basis, that works out to $5 billion per year. If you look at our merger with Harris Teeter, we've lowered our gross profit rate to more than $100 million per year there. If you look at our merger with Roundy's in Wisconsin, we've also lowered pricing there by about $130 million per year. So it's really, when you look at our fundamental model, what we have found is increasing and lowering pricing relative to any of our competitors. And I define competition pretty broad. So Walmart would obviously be our largest competitor. Costco would be number 2, and et cetera. We continually, what we have found is by giving customers a better value, using personalized pricing for each household based on what's really important to that household and passing those savings, that creates more loyalty. And then we also really focus on fresh foods. And that's really, from a competitive standpoint, we always try to make sure that we have the freshest product in the market so it will last longer for the customer when they get it home.
These commitments that you're describing, price-wise and otherwise, are those binding commitments?
They're legal. From a legal standpoint, sir, I don't know the answer to that, but from a business standpoint, that is our commitment.
Right.
And absolutely.
I can't imagine that they would be binding unless it were built into a condition of the approval. Mr. Sankaran, Albertsons just proposed handing out $4 billion to its shareholders, which dwarfs the $2.8 billion in commitments tied to the merger. Why do Kroger and Albertsons need to merge in order to lower their prices and treat their employees better when it seems like they already have the money to do so now?
Thank you, Senator. Regarding the dividend, I know there's been a lot of interest on it. I want to re-emphasize a couple of things. First is the Albertsons companies is in excellent financial condition, and that was the case before the dividend payment and will remain the case after the dividend payment. And we are in an excellent financial condition because over the last several years, as I mentioned in my opening statement, the Albertsons companies has bought a number of distressed stores, 400 stores from SuperValue, subsequently the Safeway stores, turned stores around by investing over that time frame $11.5 billion into turning around those stores, an additional $1.5 billion into the communities that we operate in, and in every year since the merger of Safeway, increasing wages, and at the same time becoming more competitive. We had not returned cash to shareholders over that time frame, And this $4 billion is a return of cash to those shareholders who have supported us over this decade
Okay.
and has nothing to do with the merger itself.
I want to revisit Albertsons' purchase of Safeway,
Yeah.
the transaction I mentioned in my opening remarks. I don't think it's controversial to say that when divested assets required to be divested in connection with the merger head to bankruptcy in less than a year, just 9 months, and then end up simply being reacquired by the merged firm, that remedy is an embarrassing failure. You have any response to that?
Senator, the divested stores and the buyer were both at that time qualified, approved by the FTC. We did everything we could to help the Hagen stores at that time, and when it didn't work, we bought it. But if you step back and look at the bigger picture, the merger, by any measure, is a success, where we put two companies together, one of them struggling, and have turned them around, and we're sitting at this table with the financial performance we have because of that merger.
Can I ask one more very quick follow-up? Mr. McMullen, my time's about out. With personalized pricing, does that just mean they charge different prices to different consumers? And isn't that all you mean by that, personalized pricing?
No, personalized pricing would be what's most important to that household. So if it's a customer on a budget, they're much more focused on entry price point items, so you would identify items that are most interested for that customer. So it's really looking at each household, what's important to them, and personalizing offers for that particular household.
Okay, I see my time's expired. Thanks.
Okay.